Hello and welcome back to Presentation Skills. In this part we're going to talk about talking to camera. Key thing with talking to camera is getting to love the camera. When we're talking to our friends, it's a very natural thing. We get used to looking them in the face, perhaps turning away from time to time, looking back. When we're talking to a camera, it feels a little bit weird, but that's something that we need to get over. We need to start to love the lens, love the opportunity to communicate through this media. So let's think about how we start to do that. Well, the first thing that people often recommend is to start to think of the camera as a friend, which it is, because this is the eye that's looking at you and you're looking right back. So key thing is to look at the camera, try to look into the lens, and that's true when we're doing a recording like I'm doing here right now, but it's also true when we're interacting, say, with our computer and we're talking to people on webcam, maybe on Skype or maybe some other meeting format. Don't forget that when we're looking at the screen, we're looking at the other person. When we're looking at the camera, often at the top of our computer, that's when we're actually looking at the person on the other side. So what we want to be doing if we're interacting on our computer is to look at the screen, but then be conscious to look at the camera as well. When we're making a presentation on camera, we also want to do a similar thing. We want to be looking at the camera and imagining it's a friend, someone that we're talking to and we're interacting with, and just as we would with a friend, sometimes we look away for a second and then we look back. We move our body a little bit, and this way we start to look natural and easy on camera while actually talking to the other person who's on the other side of that camera. So this eye contact is very important and will build a different feeling for the person who's watching the results of your video or interacting with you on your computer camera. What you want to do is try to avoid too being overly scripted. In other words, you don't want to have a very rigid script that you stick to, otherwise it sounds rather wooden. You want to be careful to try to avoid too many ums and ahs and awkward pauses. So that comes from having a little think about what you want to say before you say it, and that will help you feel and sound more natural on the camera. If you're standing, then try to plant your feet, but maybe move your hands and your head a little bit, and that will create that feeling of being a little bit more animated, a little bit more alive, rather than feeling very wooden and rigid. Don't forget, you communicate also by moving your hands a little bit, your head. All these movements create a little bit of energy and so interest in your presentation. Beforehand, do practice difficult words or perhaps technical phrases. Often you know that these are words that you have difficulty with, so before you get on camera or before you make any presentation, take time to understand how to pronounce those words. Check in the dictionary the phonics of that word and how it's supposed to be pronounced. Often online dictionaries will pronounce a word so that you can hear it and then practice it. Try it with a friend. Try to make sure that you separate out the vowels so that you can get each of the syllables clear. Remember this word in particular. Let's come here and find this particular word that people often have a problem with. Satisfaction. Satisfaction. So satisfaction, we've got, now we're looking for every part that has a vowel. It's A, E, I, O, U. Our vowels. Each time there's a vowel, we separate the word a little bit so we can create a syllable. So sat, there we've got A, is, another one, faction, So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 syllables. That helps us break up the word satisfaction. Now, we can go as slow as that because don't forget, what's our goal in a presentation? The goal is to communicate. If the person understands at the other side, our audience understand, then we've achieved our goal with our presentation. So satisfaction. Doesn't have to be very fast, but now it's clear. So practice these words, get the phonics right, and then also think about the intonation, which is about emphasis on these different syllables. And that's a place where many of you can do a little bit of work because most people, their pronunciation is clear. In my experience, you all have good pronunciation, but where you can improve your English is in the intonation, the pace, the emphasis, and that creates a more natural sounding presenter. And you can do that by listening to your own presentations, which I give you an opportunity to do in this class, to listen back to your own presentation and think how you would want to change your intonation to make it sound more natural. You can do that by listening to Western TV presenters. They often have very clear intonation. Try and copy that and you'll get a more natural sounding English presentation. People often too recommend that you amplify your personality a little bit when you're on camera. Add an extra 10%. So if you're already a rather happy person, you just add a little bit more to that and you get a clearer emphasis of who you are on the screen at the other side. So your audience, when they see you, you've added a little bit more and that personality, your personality will come through a little bit more clearly. So plus 10, add a little bit more on and you're going to get the effect that you're looking for. So there's a few tips to help you learn how to love the camera, work with it a little bit better and get used to that, because this is certainly something that in our lives we're going to do more of, not less of, being on camera. Now let's turn to another key point, that is dressing for the camera. Let's think about a few things that kill the look, that don't help us. Well, first are white clothes. Let me give you an example from me here. You can see, let me just highlight what's going wrong here. So if we have a little look, let's just go back here, white clothes. Let's have a little look at what's killing my look here. Well, if I draw on here, here we are. Let's come in here and you can see around this area, it's all very, very white and it's burnt out. So have a look at the contrast here between the background here and the white here, and as it gets whiter and whiter you lose the detail. So what I often see are people showing up not well dressed for presentation. Perhaps they've just thrown on a white t-shirt and it just blows out. You don't see any detail, you don't look good. Often you get reflections onto the face that mean that you don't look very good on camera. So avoid just throwing on a white t-shirt and showing up for your presentation. That's going to kill your look for sure. Let's get rid of this ink on the screen here. We've got far too much of it now. So let me get rid of that. Here we go. Right, let's erase all the ink on the slide. There we are. Right. Let's have another thing. Look at something else that's going to kill your look, and that's a green or a blue shirt. Why is that going to kill you? Well, have a little look here. Here we've got a presenter who's got a green t-shirt on, and you can see right through the middle here what's happened. Well, right through the middle we can see that the background is cutting her in half. You can see the background coming through. So avoid a green shirt in this kind of environment where we're using a green screen, because you're going to see that you start to go transparent. You start to become see-through, and in the most extreme, you're going to end up just seeing arms here, and the body will disappear. In other words, all this part will become transparent because of the green. So avoid green. Another thing that's good to avoid are repeating patterns. So try to avoid busy clothes, because again, they tend to break up a little bit or have the potential to break up on camera. Sometimes people show up wearing a tie. That's a great thing to do if you're presenting for making a formal presentation. But sometimes the tie is not tied up. It's sort of half hanging off. Well, that might be a fashion statement, but often it doesn't look like that. So if you're going to wear a tie, do it up properly, make it look good so it doesn't kill your look. For ladies, particularly with long hair, try to avoid your hair flowing out, because on camera it tends to become very ugly. You'll notice news anchors, people that are presenting the news, ladies with long hair, often just make sure it's combed and it's held tightly to their head, or that it's kept fairly well brushed so it doesn't flow out and get very loose. So you want to avoid it being loose because it breaks up and looks poor on a camera. What's going to build a great look? Well, iron your clothes. Again, too many people I see have decided they're going to put on a shirt, they're going to put on a nice pair of trousers, they look good, but they forget to iron the shirt. What a pity, you're on TV, look good. What's going to work well? Well, block colours. So one solid colour starts to look good. Here we are. We've got an example here. Notice the difference here between the green that we had earlier and the black that we've got now. Notice how the presenter has a really clear silhouette, a clear outline. Notice too, let me just make it a little bit clearer now, on the hair. You can see the hair here is nicely held to the edge of the head so that we don't have any wispy parts. If you let the hair go wispy, it'll all be out at the edge and it starts to look messy on the camera. Here, the presenter's looking good. The hair is nice and tight to the edge of the head and it looks well presented. The black, as we can see here on the slide, gives a nice clear contrast on the edge here and on this side too to the background. So there's a good separation here between the presenter and the background. So good colours are things like light brown or navy blue. These good block colours work really well on the camera. Now, if you want to get really make yourself look really good, then makeup, for men and for women. And you'll see, as you probably know, that actors in feature films often spend hours having their makeup done, but people presenting every day, the news anchors on TV and other people going on TV also have simple makeup done. Often that's foundation, just to make the face a little bit more of an even colour. Often people put on lip gloss just to accentuate, to amplify the lips a little bit. And if you find that you have very oily skin, a great thing to do is to just pad down your skin beforehand with a tissue or special paper, just to keep the oil off your skin so it isn't so reflective, and that way your skin will look much better on the camera. So here's a few tips to help you dress for the camera, look great on the camera, and to start loving that camera and working well with it. So I look forward to seeing you in the next part.